Salutations, my Legion of Doom. I am your Time Lord wannabe, the Brainstormer of Pop Culture. So after watching the first 5 or so episodes of the CW's Batwoman show, and seeing the issues and problems with it on a writing standpoint, I decided to do what I do best, which is write over-glorified fan fiction in an effort to show that the series in question could have been better. Now, I'm not attacking anyone who works on the show, not the cast, not the directors, not the writers, not anyone. This is simply my attempt to construct a show centered on the character of Batwoman. While I do have gripes on the show, this is simply an exercise of my writing ability. Nothing more. Again, I am not attacking anyone of the show. This is just a test of me as a writer. So, the basic plot of the first season is Catherine Kate Kane returns to Gotham after 7 years in the military, due to her cousin Bruce Wayne seemingly passing away, and she's being called to attend the funeral. After events lead her to the discovery of Bruce's nightly activities, she determines that she must discover what happened to Bruce in order to avenge his death, all the while cleaning up Gotham of the larger criminal presence that's grown since the Bat's disappearance. For the record, I'd cut down on the episode list from 22 to 13 for a more concise and tighter story, also very less filler. Now, moving on to my favorite part of any story, which are the characters. Please note, I'm most probably going to severely change the cast in order to serve my story. Catherine Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, was the daughter of Colonel Jacob Kane and Captain Gabby Wayne Kane, who had a twin sister, Elizabeth Beth Kane. For about the first 8 years of Kate's life, it was a typical family life. Except Kate was the stereotypical tomboy who didn't take shit from no one and would constantly get into fights to stop some bullies, which garnered a lot of backlash from her parents, mostly from her mother, while her dad was secretly a little bit proud of his little girl standing up for the little guy. Although her attitude problems could be attributed to her family constantly relocating due to her parents being in the military, this gave Kate a standoffish demeanor and the personality quirk of not ever really trusting people. While living in Brussels, Belgium, Kate, Beth, and their mother went on a trip to the store to get gifts for their father's upcoming birthday, but were taken hostage by a global terrorist cell known as the Religion of Crime, along with several bystanders. For a week, Kate, Beth, and their mother were tortured and starved. Ultimately, Kate had to watch her mother's throat be slit and her twin sister be dragged off to somewhere else she would never really know, just assuming she was dead. After that tragedy, her father, along with some old soldier buddies of his, raided the compound, killing almost all the terrorists, while some got away. From then on out, Kate had to take antidepressants since she was 9, plagued constantly by nightmares. After Jacob retired from service, they moved to the mother's home city, Gotham, where they bonded with Gabby's side of the family, the Waynes. After a while, Kate started to open up to her cousin Bruce, who became sort of a big brother to her. When Bruce's parents died, he withdrew from everyone, causing Kate to revert back to that depressing little girl she was before. When her father married Lady Socialite Catherine Hamilton, Kate kept her stepmother at arm's length, partially because she didn't want a replacement for her real mother, and also she believes that if she accepts Catherine Hamilton as her mother, she'll be forsaking the memory of her mother and sister. As a stepdaughter of a wealthy aristocrat like Catherine Hamilton, while also being the cousin of the Prince of Gotham, Bruce Wayne, Kate did find herself in the paparazzi spotlight, so she established a new persona of the party girl, even though it was just a facade, mostly in order to drown her inner pain. When she was in her early 20s, she was jumped by some goons in an alley. While she did put up a fight thanks to her father's training, she was outnumbered. Only when the urban legend known as the Batman saved her, this event steeled her resolve to join the military. Because before then, she thought of doing it for her father, but felt a calling of sorts after she had that fateful encounter with the Batman. She felt a purpose calling her, even though she wasn't entirely sure what it was. Joining the United States Military Academy, becoming one of their top students, but did need more practice at accuracy, however, due to her stubborn nature and reckless attitude of throwing herself into danger before anyone else, which didn't get weeded out via boot camp, but was more sharpened than anything. She eventually got some of her squad mates injured, one even being confined to a wheelchair for a time. She was expelled. Even though her father was understanding and told her that he was proud she at least tried, that didn't exactly make her feel better, so she left Gotham, traveling the world, trying to find some semblance of peace for her, trying to either forget or accept her failures. For the last 7 years, she's been drifting, depressed, and an alcoholic. Only when she gets the call about Bruce's death does she actually come back. Paying her respects, she does try to reconnect with her estranged family. In Bruce's will, she learns he left her the family mansion, noting that he enjoyed all the times they played as kids, looking back on those memories with cherished nostalgia. Then, discovering Bruce's alternative lifestyle as the Batman, realizing he saved her that night, also finding out that Bruce stumbled upon something that caused his supposed death, and in honoring/avenging him, she'll find out what and who did her cousin in. Moving on to Jacob Kane, father to Kate Kane and former colonel of the U.S. Army. When in basic training, he met Gabby Wayne, and they first formed a rivalry, then a friendship, ultimately becoming a romance. They had to keep it hush-hush, as to keep from the higher-ups in order to be together. Only when Gabby became pregnant did they decide to come out and say it. Jacob was willing to take the hit and resign in order to allow Gabby to continue up the ranks, but Gabby beat him to it. When Jacob protested, she simply stated that he was better at being a soldier than she was. While Jacob continued on, Gabby stayed at home with the kids. For a time, a simpler time, they were the normal, happy family. Until the religion of crime stole his wife and daughters when they were out shopping. Jacob, in panic and hatred, gathered some of his old soldier buddies and tracked down the terrorists. Even though it took a week, they were able to find where they were and mount a rescue. However, it was too late. Gabby was found, her throat slit. Jacob looked, but he assumed they'd killed her somewhere else and dumped the body. And Kate was left traumatized. After moving to Gotham and connecting with Gabby's family, the Waynes, Jacob was glad to see Kate connecting with Bruce, but tragedy struck the Waynes and Kane family after Thomas and Martha were killed in front of Bruce. While both Jacob and Kate tried to reach Bruce, he drew himself away, pushing Jacob and Kate out of his life. Eventually, after some years, Jacob was able to find another love with Catherine Hamilton, Gotham heiress, finding her a nice and good person. Even though Kate was standoffish while with Jacob's new wife, she at least tries to get along with her when he's around them, and he appreciates it dearly. When he heard of Kate's incident, suffice to say that him wanting to kill the punks who hurt his daughter was a massive understatement. Kate was able to quell his rage from that outburst, but still. He was proud of his daughter going into the military, even though he felt she only did it for him, which he appreciates, but he wants her to do something for herself, not just for everyone else. He was there for her when she was kicked out of the academy, knowing that she had good intentions for her actions, even though they were consequences she suffered. He knew she could and would learn from them. After she left for 7 years on a self-imposed exile, Jacob was the one to call her about Bruce's death. Now that she's back, Jacob wants to catch up on lost time. As he and Kate become closer again, he notices that she seems more mature and confident, wondering what it is that prompted this change. Lucas Fox is head of security and R&D department for Wayne Enterprises and son to Lucius Fox. He grew up in Gotham, believing in the urban legend of the Batman. He was inspired into trying to help Gotham be better, at first volunteering at help centers, soup kitchens, and the like. As he started becoming his own man, he started training, hoping to be noticed and taken as a partner by Batman. He studied and graduated at MIT with double degrees in engineering and business, which got a lot of people wanting him, but he took an offer at Wayne Enterprises for two reasons. One, he would be in Gotham, and two, he did want to work with his father, who he deeply respects. As he worked with Wayne Enterprises, he also studied and practiced MMA, even going so far as to fight in underground cage fights, even though his father was extremely against this way of life and thinking. However, all the training and knowledge paid off when Bruce Wayne decided to bring Lucas into the fold, revealing to him the identity of the Batman. For about 4 years, he was a pupil of Bruce's, mainly acting as the man in the chair, sometimes even gathering intel on the streets for him. When Bruce's supposed death happened, it somewhat enraged Lucas, since Lucas saw Bruce as a brother-like figure. Now he's driven to find out what happened to Bruce, developing tunnel vision in his pursuit for answers. When Kate Kane enters the fold, Lucas is obviously at odds with her, mainly because her hothead nature, which is a stark contrast to Bruce's controlled and calculated personality. However, he's willing to overlook that because of Kate's goal of finding out what happened to Bruce too aligns with his. Moving on with Detective Renee Montoya, born in Gotham City along with her little brother Benny Montoya, and grew up in the narrows of Midtown Gotham, where they had to steer clear of the gangs that ran around there. When they were teenagers, her brother Benny got into some gang, which ultimately led to him being shot and dying from blood loss. This event caused Renee to enroll into the GCPD, graduating top of her class. Rising through the ranks, she got the reputation of being abrasive and a total hard-ass. As she became a detective, she worked on busting many of the organized crime, helping bringing down the gang that got her brother killed. As she has begun her 6th year in organized crime, she has been given the lead on the task force to bring down a mysterious criminal movement known as the Religion of Crime, as it begins to plague Gotham since the Batman's disappearance, when she was glad for, kind of. She has little respect for vigilantes, believing that Batman was the root cause for increased violence and mayhem that happened in Gotham. However, since she's come to soften towards mass vigilantes when working with the faceless man known as the Question, who is also working the case of the Religion of Crime, who's getting info and evidence that Renee can't do to red tape of police work. The Question becomes her primary informant on the streets, even learning a thing or two from him. When she hears rumors of a new bat in town, she's a little more adamant of this vigilante's arrival, hoping to catch them before there's a war and innocent people are caught in the crossfire. Moving forward, we have Vic Sage, aka The Question, an investigative television journalist that was popular in the mid to late 90s, covering stories of the gritty, dirty underbelly of the world, from human trafficking to crimes of war. He's pretty much seen it all. Most who would see the evil of mankind would usually become cynical bastards, but not Vic. He remains hopeful even in the bleakest of times, believing that there's always a light in that darkness, no matter how small. Around 1999, Vic was investigating his former college professor, Aristotle Rodor, who told Sage about an artificial skin called pseudoderm, which Rodor had co-developed with Dr. Twain, which was intended to work as an applied skin-like bandage with the help of a bonding gas, but had an unforeseen toxicity, which was fatal when applied to open wounds. Though Rodor and Twain agreed to abandon the project and parted ways, Professor Rodor later discovered that Dr. Twain planned to proceed with an illegal sale of the invention to third world nations, despite the risks to human health. Sage resolved to help him, but had no way of going after Twain without exposing himself. Rodor suggested the Sage use a mask made of pseudonym to cover his facial famous features. Disguised by the pseudonym mask and armed with information, Sage eventually caught up with Dr. Twain, stopped the transaction, and extracted a confession from him. He then left Twain bound in an ironic twist. On television, Vic Sage reported on Dr. Twain's illegal activities. With his first venture a success, Sage decided that this new identity would be useful for future investigations. He continued to work with Professor Rodor, who supplied the pseudonym, and eventually modified the bonding gas, giving it the ability to alter the color of Sage's hair. Vic became good friends with Aristotle, who became a mentor to him in both of his identities. Becoming the vigilante, The Question, he has worked in uncovering vast conspiracies and bringing them to the truth, while also helping those that need it. He's been around the block a few times, mainly keeping in the shadows, but has recently come to Gotham in order to solve the unanswered questions of what happened to the Batman, what is the Religion of Crime doing in Gotham, and who's the new Bat in Gotham. All the while he works to answer these questions. He consults with Detective Renee Montoya, who leads the task force to stop the Religion of Crime. He finds that the lady reminds him of himself in his younger days, wanting to see the mystery solved and that justice done right. He offers somewhat of an unconventional mentorship for Renee, giving her advice on how to notice the tiniest details that reveals so much, and how to always case every angle, no matter the smallest chance it doesn't pan out. Finally, we move to our antagonist, Deacon Blackfire, a former preacher of Gotham, widely renowned in the homeless district, referred to as the Bowery, which was one of the worst places to live in Gotham, and that's really saying something. He was a good man, lived a simple life, never trying to gain anything for himself. He was simply on a mission for God to help the people of the Bowery, living in a small, very crappy apartment with his loving wife and his teenage daughter. But that little happy life didn't last long when a few thugs decided to burst into their home, violently killing Deacon's wife and kidnapping his little girl, telling them that he had to get a large sum of money from the church or his daughter would be killed within 3 hours. So Deacon complied, taking about $15,000 from the tithes and offerings. When meeting the thugs, he found out they already killed his daughter and tried to kill him, but in a furious rage, he slaughtered the two thugs. After the funeral of his family, he was expelled from the church for stealing funds. After that, he was aimless, drifting around until the religion of crime asked if he wanted to see Gotham burn and writhe by his making. With revenge in his veins, he joined, reading the cult-like book The Crime Bible, sacred holy text of the religion of crime. Using his skills as a preacher, he looks to amass a following in Gotham to raise hell in it. Being the leader of the Gotham Coven for religion of crime, he's also looking to find the gang that those two thugs were a part of and kill every lowly creature in it, while also looking to demolish all the churches of Gotham, believing that God does not belong in this plague of a city. So he's a charmer, a go-getter, and a violent sociopath that's extremely temperamental when he is set back in his plans. Most of his followers respect him because of the fear he carries around him. As he's taken the chance to be more open in Gotham since the Bat's disappearance, relying on a large mass, he's finding his plans come closer to their endgame. However, since the new hero, Batwoman, has shown up and messing with his things, he's starting to become more unhinged, aiming to have her crucified for all of Gotham to see. So I guess the themes of the first season are primarily of trauma and faith. Obviously, this is most represented by the protagonist, Kate Kane, and the antagonist, Deacon Blackfire. For Kate, it's her journey to accept the horrific trauma of her past and eventually moving on from it, while Deacon goes into a downward spiral because he's bounded by his trauma, refusing to move on from it. While the faith aspect does differ drastically between the two, it obviously is about the gain and loss of faith. Specifically, Kate Kane finding faith in herself as a person, and the faith to stand strong and crying defiance to those who wish to harm others. And in Deacon's case, it would be his loss of faith in God and that people can be good. So obviously they are mirror opposites that parallel one another. So to see how one becomes who they are by how they react to these events that shape them. So those are my ideas for a better version of the Batwoman TV show. What do you think? Anyway, thanks for watching, and in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Until next time, my legion.